part of it. Certainly, there's aspects of that with the fundamentals, but I think if you look at getting a team together, starting the day and moving well, really important part of it. And so, we had an expert in that field who I think really shed some light, obviously, on the importance of focusing on getting your athletes to move well, because as we've heard the last couple of days, when they have that ability and that awareness, we're trying to then influence those movements and talk about and need to do these things that really matter. In the swing, certainly, makes it a whole lot easier to deal with as a coach. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Joe Eisenmann.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I want to thank Matt and the rest of the coaches in the Cleveland Indians organization for inviting me here today. Matt and I met last spring training when I went down to do a consult with one of my colleagues on talent identification and talent development. So my background, and if you notice, I was the only guy in the brochure without a baseball hat on, but do have a baseball background. My background is in pediatric exercise science. So when I go to a basketball court, a training session, a baseball game, or whatever, that's my lens, is watching these youngsters grow and mature and see how their physical capabilities develop over time with age, but also with maturation. And then how can we layer on well-designed and effective training programs to augment those aspects of athletic capability. So 25 years experience as an academic, but I actually like to call myself a pracademic. I take a very practical side to the scientific aspect of sports, or what we call sports science. My last academic appointment was at Michigan State University, where I spent 10 years, and while I was there, I opened up what was called Spartan Performance. So Spartan Performance was on campus. It was a training center and a research center for studying young athletes. So athletes would come in, they would go through testing, we would do training with them. We would also do sports nutrition and sports psychology with them, so we took a holistic approach. And you're gonna see that today in my talk as well. I'm very much centered around taking this holistic approach to athletic development. I left Michigan State University in 2017 and I took a position with USA Football, which is the national governing body of the sport, where I was charged with overseeing long-term athletic development, which I'm going to speak about today in general, but also in the sport of baseball, which is, again, near and dear to my heart. I also oversaw coach education, so very similar to what's going on here today, and then health and safety. I left after 1 year. It was just one of those positions that wasn't a good fit. So right now I'm serving as a consultant in this area of long-term athletic development and sports science with some sport tech companies and some sport performance companies. I also have a visiting professor position at Leeds Beckett University in the UK, so still keeping my toe in the research waters there, if you will. But this is something that I really enjoy, and that's interacting with coaches. It's one reason why I left academia, is I was publishing all these papers. Did you guys ever read any of my papers? That's what I thought. And that's what happens a lot in academia as well, is this research is done, but it never gets to the end users. And for me, the end users are young athletes and coaches, and also parents to a certain degree as well. So this is what I really enjoy doing, is coming to events like this and sharing what's going on in the research world and really translating that information so that it becomes usable nuggets for coaches and young athletes. In terms of my baseball playing background and coaching background, I grew up in North Dakota. You may hear a little bit of an accent here. That's from North Dakota. I went to a small college called Mayville State University. It was an NAI school. I was both a high school and a NAI All-American in baseball. And then I've coached since I was 16 years old. I coached Little League. I've coached American Legion baseball at the high school level. And then when I started graduate school and went through academia, it was basically my outlet to really apply what I was doing in terms of research and teaching in the classroom. So I've been involved in baseball for the last 25 years as well. So this is something very enjoyable for me as well in terms of that part. The talk I'm going to give, I have about probably 40 minutes now. But what I'm going to talk about today, I typically will do in a 50-minute session. I'm going to get through this in about 20 minutes, and then we're going to go through some hands-on practical stuff on the floor here as well. But if you want to read my insight on terms of long-term athletic development in baseball, I've written about it in this blog. So one of the companies that I work for is called Volt Athletics. So if you just Google Volt Athletics blog, or you put Saving Our National Pastime, that's the title of the blog. A lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about is in that piece right there. I want to start with this question right here. If you had to rate the U.S. sports system, specifically related to young athletes, youth and high school, how would you rate it? Who would say excellent? Who would say good? Who would say fair? Who would say poor? So I've thrown this out on Twitter on a few consecutive years here, and you can see very similar results to what you guys just told me. Very few, if any, say it's excellent. We get a smattering of goods. A lot of people say it's fair. And we also have a lot of people saying that it's pretty poor as well. So this Twitter straw poll is also corroborated by a report from the Aspen Institute of Sport and what they call Project Play. So they have what they term 8 plays. So ask kids what they want. Reintroduce free play, which was a topic on the hot stove. I'm going to talk about a little bit more as well, because I've been to the DR before and I see what goes on there in terms of unstructured free play. Encouraging sport sampling, getting away from sport specialization, revitalizing in-town leagues, not having to play pay-for-play travel ball all the time. Thinking small, designing for development, training coaches. You guys are exempt from that because you're here. Emphasizing prevention in terms of injury prevention. So overall, that's given a C. The Centers for Disease Control, taking a look at a report card for physical activity, and we can think of sport being a subset of physical activity. They're giving sport a C as well. Okay. So in 2014, USA Baseball, they're doing an audit of the youth baseball landscape in our country. Here's what they come up with. Inadequate coach education, early single sport specialization, which can lead to overuse, burnout, and then this idea of general athleticism, which I'll talk more about shortly. Year-round play, again, dealing with those issues of overuse and burnout. Lack of structured guidance through a player's childhood and adolescence, which is really the focus of what I'm going to do here in the next 20 minutes. A disproportionate ratio between development and competition, or what I call overcompeting and undertraining. And then last, which I just mentioned before, the pay-to-play model, increasing costs of participation. So this is what USA Baseball, after they do their audit, these are the issues that they come up with. So there's a solution. That solution is called long-term athletic development. Show of hands, who's heard of this concept, long-term athlete development? Okay. So Justin had a great slide up yesterday, and we talked about it this morning, right? It was this quote right here. When you attempt to build capacity on dysfunction, you are actually deepening the attractor state of your compensation. Thus, you're building compensation, not capacity. Now, one word I've heard a lot this morning is athleticism. We like athletic guys, right? We want them to bring in some athleticism. We can teach them how to hit. So what is athleticism? I think we all generally think about this, and we all probably agree it's this composite set of traits. And those traits include having a competent level of motor skills. Over to the left there, those are the fundamental movement skills. They can be grouped as locomotor, stability, or manipulative. And then you look down that list. Baseball, inherently, you have to throw, catch, and strike. or else you can't play baseball, right? But there's all these other aspects as well, like walking, running, hopping, skipping, bounding, leaping, jumping, rolling, galloping, balancing, landing, turning, twisting, bending, stretching, extending, that we need competency in to be a good athlete. And then we can start talking about strength and power and speed and agility and balance and coordination and endurance. This figure over on the right here I really like as well, because the other aspect, because I talk a lot to strength and conditioning coaches, and they think strength is the be-all, end-all. And don't get me wrong, strength is very important. A lot of strength coaches argue that it's the basis of athleticism. I argue them on that point because if you're strong and you can't move, it doesn't matter. We have to have all of this in our athletic toolbox to build robust, resilient athletes and get them to be athletic. So obviously we need to throw and catch and grasp, but with the upper body, we need to be able to push and pull, both horizontally and vertically. We need to be able to do a push-up. We need to be able to do a pull-up and build strength, pushing and pulling in the upper body. We need joint stability and mobility. Baseball's a rotational sport. We have to have this core strength and stability. We also have to have that rotational mobility and that rotational power. It doesn't matter if you throw or hit, it's rotational. But how many of your athletes lack rotational mobility? How many of them lack core strength and core stability? A lot. But what do we do about it? What are we doing to train that as well? There are some simple things that we can do. Lower body, both on 2 feet and on 1 foot. And then jumping, landing, rebounding, accelerating, decelerating, and changing direction. Man, don't you want an athlete who has 4 stars in all those athletic capabilities? Those are the guys you want, right? But what are we doing at the youth level to build those capacities? So long-term athletic development. So if we take this as our definition of athleticism, of an athlete, what are we doing long-term? Just what it says. We are developing those athletic competencies, those athletic abilities over time. And we're doing it to improve their health and fitness, to enhance their physical performance, to reduce their risk of injury, and to develop confidence and competency. And we have to do that over time. A cradle-to-grave approach. The other thing I like about this is it's not just about high performance. It's about being a 48-year-old and still enjoying playing baseball, and still enjoying going for a run, and still enjoying lifting, and staying healthy and fit, and avoiding injury, and being confident in my abilities to move. It can look like this. So one thing baseball has done is a great game type. We've modified the game to fit youngsters. We start them in T-ball, and then they move to coach pitch. And then when we move them onto a field, they play Little League, right? They throw from 45, they run 60. And then we move it from 45 back to 54 or whatever we're doing, whatever it's Pony League or Cal Ripken or whatever league, right? We're moving the pitching mound back, and we're moving the base paths back, and we're changing the dimensions of the field. We do a great job of that in terms of game modification. And if we look at athleticism again, we can layer it across early childhood to adulthood. And we have our physical qualities right here. So these are our fundamental movement skills. And we should really be emphasizing them at an early age, but they shouldn't go away. Our sport-specific skills. Let's not pay so much attention down here, but as we acquire the building blocks, if you will, then we'll start layering the sport-specific skills on there, and then ramping that up as we start dissipating the fundamental skills, because they have them. But the fundamental skill aspect can't go away as we ramp up the sports skill. And then in terms of these other aspects, strength, right? Strength can be a base here for speed and power and agility and mobility. And then our endurance and our metabolic capacity aspect as well. I want you to think right now, what are you doing as a coach to train these abilities in your program? And what are other coaches who may be in your system doing it as well? Because I'm going to get to that aspect as well. So these guys work in a minor league system up to the major league system. That's a long-term athletic development model from the time those guys get into the system until they get up to the big leagues. And they have to communicate across, and they're trying to develop, right, from A to AA to AAA to the big leagues. We need to think about it the same way in our youth programs and into the high school system as well. And taking all aspects of athleticism and fundamental skills and the sport-specific skills and going across. So again, I think very holistically. So a lot of my colleagues in strength and conditioning, they're very centric on this right here, on strength and speed and power and agility. And that's really what I'm here to talk about today. But what I always remind my colleagues in strength and conditioning is it doesn't matter how strong you are, how fast you are, how agile you are. If you can't swing it and field it and throw it, it doesn't matter, right? If you don't know the game, these guys talk a little bit about knowing the game and that sport IQ, that tactical aspect of it, it's not going to matter. We have to put all these things together, and we have to help develop from a young age all the way through. What's our approach to tactical development? Baseball IQ. How about to the technical? How do we teach a progression in throwing and hitting and fielding and base running? And then the physical aspect, and then of course the mental aspect as well. Getting them to focus and concentrate and have positive self-talk and relax under pressure and all those key mental skills that can be taught along the way as well. And I think character development is part of that model as well. So a very holistic approach in how we look at that. I look at it just like school. I don't take your 10-year-old and sit him down in the math classroom and have him do differential equations, do I? What do we start with? What are the numbers? Can we add and subtract them? Multiply and divide? Can we do some pre-algebra? Can we do some algebra? Can we do some calculus? Okay, now let's move along the way. In the same way that we don't stick them in there and say, okay, write a novel, right? Learn the alphabet, learn a simple sentence, learn complex sentences, put it into a paragraph. Tell me a story. Okay, now let's write a book. But I think in athletics, we rush this, we accelerate it, right? We're always trying to write novels. We're always trying to do calculus with 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds. And we skip those early foundational aspects. So really what we want to have here is vertical alignment. So looking at technical, tactical, physical, and mental. Those are our subjects over on the left-hand side, right? And then we have a curriculum that advances in each of those. So start thinking about that in your program. How do you teach baseball IQ? T-ball, coach pitch, U10, U12, U14, freshman, JV, varsity. What are you doing for hitting? What are you doing for pitching? What are you doing for base running? What are you doing for speed? What are you doing for agility? What are you doing for mobility? What's that curriculum look like across? So vertically and horizontally. And if we can do that, we have a pretty good long-term athletic development model. So in 2014, the same time that USA Baseball is doing the audit, the United States Olympic Committee puts together what they call the American Development Model, just to confuse everybody. Hey, it's long-term athletic development, but we're Americans and we have to be different. Let's call it the American Development Model, okay? Nonetheless, they have their model, and there are 5 key principles. Number 1 is universal access. Again, that's getting at that pay-to-play aspect, right? Let's have easy access for everybody, and let's have different entry points for individuals as well. Developmentally appropriate activities that emphasize motor and foundational skills, just what I finished talking about. Multi-sport participation, fun, engaging, and progressively challenging atmosphere. Quality coaching, Positive Coaching Alliance, fabulous job on 4 and 5. Fabulous job. There is a 5-stage model here that the USOC ADM is based upon. So stage 1 is age 0 to 12, really discover, learn, and play. Let's just expose them to the game or games, whether it be lacrosse, football, basketball, baseball, whatever. Let's expose them to the game. Stage 2, age 10 to 16, let's develop and challenge them. Stage 3, let's train and let's let them compete. And then stage 4, depending on what our pathway is going to be. Is it going to be a participation pathway or is it going to be a performance pathway? And then the last is really being active for life, thrive and mentor, and give back to the game as well. Because now you've gone through that game and you understand what it means to be a quality coach and coach all aspects of the game. So to give back as a coach, as an official, and guess what? To be a good sport parent as well. So most, if not all, of the national governing bodies, including USA Baseball, have adopted this ADM. So in lieu of time, I just want to introduce you to this. And really what I wanted to do this morning is get you guys thinking about long-term athletic development, how you can take it back to your school, organization, or club, and perhaps implement it and have conversations about it, and provide you with some resources. How many people were familiar that USA Baseball launched the long-term athletic development model in September 2017? I always find this so interesting, how we can have national governing bodies and they launch a big initiative and coaches within their own system haven't heard about it. Guess what, guys? We have a freaking marketing problem, don't we? We have a marketing problem, but it also speaks to what I call the wild, wild west of youth sports in America. We can do whatever we want, right? If your kid's not playing, I'm taking my kid and we're going to form another team. And we're going to form another league. You guys know it, right? Happens all the time. So 2017, USA Baseball launches their long-term athletic development plan. So more confusion. The USOC ADM says 5 stages. Baseball goes to 7. You can go to all the other national governing bodies and they all have their own different models as well. I was just at an event at the USOC in December and everybody was around the table and they're talking about, oh, we have a 6 stage, oh, we have a 5 stage, oh, we call it this, we call it that. Confusion, right? No cohesion at all. We're all trying to develop athletes. It doesn't matter if you're a lacrosse player, football player, baseball player, whatever. We're all trying to do the same thing, develop athletes. That aspect that I showed you is sport agnostic. It doesn't matter what sport you play. We need to develop athletes and athleticism and health and fitness and injury prevention mechanisms, no matter what sport you are in or coach. So within each of the stages, they discuss physical literacy, which I'm going to show a little bit here shortly. So how do we get kids to move confidently and competently, those fundamental things? How do we get them to run and jump and hop and skip? Physical development, more along the lines of strength and conditioning, injury prevention, psychological well-being, specialization, and then periodization, or what's your plan? What's your yearly plan in this age group? What's your seasonal plan in this age group? I think as coaches, we do a good job of practice planning, but we do it one at a time. Again, go back to school. Lesson plans in mathematics build upon one another, right? Are we doing that in sport? Do we have a periodization calendar? Do we have a plan? Do we have a systematic plan in terms of development for all these capacities and things that we're interested in? So in each stage, USA Baseball addresses each of these. They also address this competition and practice ratio as well. Because again, We all know the 70-game schedules that U8 kids are playing, right? Guess what? They played all weekend and they didn't have one fly ball hit to them, right? They played 5 games, had one fly ball hit to them. Repetition, quality repetitions to hone the skills. So here's their chart within each of the stages, and you can see how practice, heavy at the earlier ages and then begins to diminish, competition, lower, and then increases. And then competition months per year. So again, trying to get away from year-round competition and training, expose them to multiple sports, avoid injury, avoid burnout as well. So again, all this is at the website. If you go USA Baseball, LTAD, it's going to come up right away. I wish I had 2 full hours to go through it step by step with you, but you guys are smart. You're going to get in there and it's going to make sense to you. I know this is a hitting clinic, but I'd be remiss not to talk about throwing and pitching and pitch counts. So again, MLB Pitch Smart website does a great job of providing information on what those guidelines are and what the solid base, hear me, solid base of research is around pitch counts and injury in young throwers. I have a lot of very good friends and colleagues who are orthopedic surgeons, and they hate this. One of my buddies played in the Yankees organization. He's an orthopedic surgeon at Michigan State. He told me, Joe, I want to be the laziest orthopedic surgeon there is. Can you go out and do more of this prevention stuff that you're doing? Because he's seeing kids all the time. So a few last points I want to consider related to long-term athletic development. First is this idea of physical literacy, and I've already alluded to this. We zoom right past this, right? We want to microwave athletes. 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, we just want to microwave them. This is a slow cooker. It's like making a very, very good stew. You get your ingredients, you cut them up, you take care in how you cut them and select them, you put them in, you put your potatoes in first, right? You let them bake a little bit in that crock pot, you put some of the other ingredients in, and it takes time, doesn't it? As opposed to grabbing the microwave meal. Doesn't taste real good, does it? But that's what we're trying to do to young athletes. We're trying to microwave them. We're trying to get them right there. And we're skipping this first step right here. We really go wrong here. I'm going to show you a few easy things that we can do to fix that. This was alluded to this morning already. Unstructured play. I've been to the DR, I've seen this. Here's a photo right here. These kids are in the streets with bottle caps, and they're taking a branch and they're snapping it, and that's their bat. Baseball IQ, intuitiveness. I'm old. I grew up in the day when I put my ball glove on my bike handles, and I drove around my town, and I looked, hey, you guys want to play? Let's go. Grab your glove, let's go. Oh, my mom said I only got 30 minutes. I don't care, let's go. We're going to go out and play. What are we going to do? There's only 3 of us. Oh, we're going to play pickle, right? We're going to play 500. We're going to go in the backyard and we're going to play wiffle ball, right? You're the pitcher, I'm the hitter, and you're the fielder. Let's go. Ghost runner on first. You guys remember that? Here's my challenge to you. Why can't you do that in practice? Because you like control. Coaches love control, right? All right, we're going to get there. We're going to throw and warm up. We're going to do this drill. We're going to do this drill, and we're going to go to the cages. And here's my stations, and that's the way practice is going to roll. It's great that you have a plan. I want to challenge you to take 5 minutes once in a while in your practice and just let them rip. Because I'm going to tell you this: you're going to learn something about those kids. Wow. I never knew that he could do that. Never knew he could move like that before. Unreal. Awesome. And you're going to learn about yourself as well as a coach, because now you have to be the coach with no mouth, right? And the big ears and the big eyes. And you have to watch them. So I'm going to challenge you to do that. Find ways for unstructured play at your practices. I've done it with high school kids. Wiffle ball. Guess what? Coach, can we do it again? They'll say that all the time. Hey, remember that wiffle ball game that we played? Can we do it again? It was so much fun. It was awesome. And you know what you can do with a wiffle ball, right? I mean, you talk about hand-eye coordination and hitting. And it's fun and engaging for them. And sometimes it can be a mental release. Because we put these high school kids in a hot cooker too, don't we? I mean, we're treating them like professional athletes. So for them, it can be just a mental release as well. And some revitalization. What did you call it again? What did you talk? The emotional tank, right? It's a great way to replenish their emotional tank. So again, challenging you to do unstructured play, because I'm not convinced this is going to come back real soon. That I'm going to drive back to my neighborhood this afternoon and there's going to be kids out in the backyard playing, you know, touch football or playing hoops in the front, in the driveway, or, you know, playing wiffle ball. I'm not real convinced that's going to happen. We need to make it happen and allow it and create it as well. One last quick story about semi-unstructured play in the DR. On the regulation field, they had 3 games going at one time. In right field, in left field, and at home plate. And there was one supervisor, and he didn't say a word. The kids governed the game. Balls, strikes, outs, who's pitching, who's playing this position. And he just opened up the gate and said, red team versus blue team, you guys are over there. Green and yellow, you guys are over there. The other 2 teams are there. And then he just made sure that safety was in store and just let them go. But we don't really do that, do we? Practice. I'm going to tell you why kids leave the game. They run laps, they stand in lines, and they listen to lots of lectures. I see it all the time. I'm an ethnographer. I use my eyes a lot. I go by ballparks all the time and I'm taking notes so I can come to and talk to coaches about this. This is what you guys are doing, right? Kids get there, hey, 2 laps around. Guess what? I can develop athleticism in the first 10 minutes of practice, coach. Once in a while, I'll go to a coach and say, hey, I live in the neighborhood. I got a little bit of a background in, you know, strength and conditioning and baseball. Mind if I just take the first 10 minutes of your practice? Why? What are you going to do? I just want to take the kids through like a dynamic warm-up and get them moving a little bit. You know, first 10 minutes of practice, you like have them run around and then, you know, do a couple stretches and then away we go. Can I just have the first 10 minutes just for a couple weeks? Yeah, I'll let you do it. After that 10 weeks, guess what? Or 2 weeks, guess what? I got a full-time job the rest of the year because he likes what he sees and the kids are moving better and he can tell right away. So no laps, no lines, no lectures. Station-based approaches, right? Less of this, more of this and this. Here's a really difficult part of long-term athletic development in a club, school, or community, is system integration. We have the U8 coach, the U10 coach, the U12 coach, the freshman coach, the varsity coach, and there's no plan about how to get this kid from being a U8 to a varsity athlete. It's guesswork, it's luck. There's no communication, there's no plan. And it looks like this on the left, right? It looks like that. And then you got the football coach doing something else and the basketball coach doing something else as well. In the same building. In the same building. Let's make it look like this in your sport. Go back to your community. If you're a varsity coach, I'm going to challenge you on this. Go back in your community. Sometimes this always doesn't work because you're in a really large catchment area. But if you're in a smaller catchment area, go back in your community and get all the coaches together and say, hey, I just heard this guy talk about long-term athletic development. I went to the website at USA Baseball. This makes too much sense, guys. We're already doing this in school when they go through mathematics and English and whatever. Why don't we do it in baseball? Let's get some system alignment here of how we're teaching hitting and throwing and how we're developing these athletic traits all the way through, and let's align it. And then hopefully what happens is basketball and football and the other sports, they start talking to each other, and now you really have a robust, long-term athletic development plan. I'm going to tell you, after 25 years of doing this, it's easier said than done. Easier said than done. Some of you guys, I may have caught your attention. You're all excited now to go back and maybe talk to a few people about this. It's easier said than done. You have to have a great leader and a great champion who's also an incredibly effective communicator with other adults, including parents, to get their buy-in as well. And then it's just that, it's the communication, because the plans are there. I mean, you can go on websites and you can find plans about how to develop all the way through. Really, this is like physical education, right? This is old school physical education and how that develops, but guess what? We don't have that anymore, do we? So guess what? Now you're the physical education teacher as well. You're the baseball coach, but really you're the physical education coach in a lot of ways. So, how much time do I have left, Matt? 10 minutes? I can do this in 10 minutes. So in 10 minutes, I'm going to take 12 people. I need 12 guys who do not have a cardiorespiratory, metabolic, or orthopedic limitation who can come out here and move for me. 12 guys, okay? I need 12 guys. So I'm going to get these guys lined up here. I want 1, 2, 3 lines right here. 1, 2, 3, we're going to face that way. Okay? This is my first 10 minutes of practice. I'm going to run it live, okay? 3 lines of 4. 3 lines of 4. Okay?
I said no lines, Joe.
But I'm going to keep it moving. So again, you can go to the Volt Athletic website. What I'm going to take these guys through is detailed to the specifics of how I would teach fundamental athletic position, how I would teach body weight squat, how I would teach lunge, how I teach hopping, skipping, jumping, landing. Everything is laid out in those 2 blocks. I'm going to run this in real time so you can see what this can look like, those first 10 minutes of practice to develop general athleticism. Okay? Okay, here's what we're going to do. First person's going to go when that person gets about right here, the second person's going to go. It's going to be a continuous flow. When you get down to the cone, you're going to circle it on the right, and then you're going to jog back right here. So your return lane is right here. Slide down that way. Yeah, your return lane's here, right? You're going to go here, and your return lane's here. So you got to keep your eyes up, see what's going on with that person coming back to you. All right? First one we're going to do is we're going to jog down and then jog back. Okay? Ready? First person, go. Nice, easy jog. Nice and easy. One more time. The other thing I really want to do here is I want to start emphasizing sprint mechanics. So if I would have had the time, we'd have been talking arm action, staying on the ball of the foot, good posture as well. Okay? Okay, when first person gets back, I want you to do a low skip, right? Remember, it's a step hop, step hop, step hop, step hop. And I want you to have good arm action, so hip pocket to chin, all the way down, okay? First person, go. That person gets there, yeah. Yeah, stay on the ball of your foot, good arm action. And then always a jog back, guys, my bad. Always a jog back, okay? Knee to chest. We're gonna go knee to chest, okay? Step it out, knee to chest, soft on this leg. First person, go. Okay. So I have a single leg stance, right? A single leg stance with balance. But I'm also working some hip mobility here as well. So my rules when we go through a dynamic warm-up, number 1 is I want to keep them moving. This isn't run down, run back, coach thinks, okay, what's next? I have a plan in my head, and I also coach this. Just like you coach other drills, I'm coaching this. First person's back already? Okay, we're gonna go heel to butt the next time. Opposite hand, opposite foot, with the reach. Okay, opposite hand, opposite foot, with the reach. Keep your trunk up, go, okay? Keep your trunk up, try not to bend over this way. Keep that trunk up so that we can work that hip mobility, right? Kick that foot back, reach, and go. So again, I'm getting single leg stance out of them. I'm getting some balance aspects out of it. Make sure to keep a soft knee, okay? So really what this is fundamental athletic position on a single leg, right? Fundamental athletic position on a single leg. And obviously I'm getting a quad stretch out of this as well.
I mean, that's a great point. I mean, hitting, or at some point, we're on one leg, right?
Okay, we're going to go a quarter lunge to a rotate, okay? When I rotate, I want to get this shoulder all the way to the front, right? So now we're talking that thoracic mobility. First person go. Quarter squat, rotate, up, quarter lunge, rotate. Knee stays above the ankle. I'm doing my assessment right now of athleticism as well, right? And I'm keeping in my mind which guys I need to work on in terms of mobility stuff, which guys I need to work on in terms of core, right? There's core activation going on right now. You can tell the guys who have a weak core and they're kind of going down this way, right? Backwards, reach the sky, okay? Backwards, reach the sky. Backwards lunge, reach to the sky, okay? Toes stay forward. Toes stay forward. Reach back. And this is going to help me going into my the next thing I'm going to do, which is, what do you think? I'm going to backpedal them because it's teaching them how to reach the foot back, right? And again, if I had a good 2 weeks to work with these guys, we could get them athletic. More athletic, excuse me. So these guys are going to, all these guys are going to email me tomorrow morning and say, I'm so sore. Always happens. Man, I was sore after we did that. Back pedal. Rule right here, nose on top of the toes, right? So I'm going to be athletic, nose on top of the toes, and I'm going to reach with good arm action, okay? When I get here, I'm staying back in my lane, communicate. Go, first person go, right? Nose on top of the toes. If the nose goes backwards, guess where you go? We've all seen it before. It's happened live in clinics. All right, we're going to face that way, we're going to shuffle. We're going to face that way, we're going to shuffle. I want to go hands above the head, okay? So now for baseball, I'm going to start activating some arm in there so I can go right into my rotator cuff rehab, prehab stuff as well. Face that way, shuffle, okay? Stay athletic, toes stay forward. First group, go, go. Yep, arms above the head. And you're going to shuffle facing the same direction coming back, okay? Because this way I get to shuffle right and I get to shuffle left on the way back. I kill two birds, one stone with this one. Okay, this time I'm going to go shuffle, shuffle, stretch, stretch. Now I'm starting to teach deceleration mechanics, right? Getting them to be able to decelerate on that leg. What does that look like as well? Secondary lead. Okay? First person go. Shuffle, shuffle, stretch, stretch. Shuffle, shuffle, stretch, stretch, and then on the way back. Yep. And as soon as they get out of that first stretch, you guys can take off. This takes a little bit longer. Yep. Keep that chest up. Foot all the way flat on the ground. And of course, the first time I work with a young group of athletes, It takes me longer because I'm going to be doing a little bit more teaching here as well. Okay, we're going to go low karaoke, okay? So remember, left on front, left on back, left on front, left on back, left on front, left on back, okay? Low karaoke, not a high knee karaoke, which we'll get to next. Hips stay forward, right? Use your arms to counterbalance and rotate. So now I'm getting a little bit more rotational component into it as well. First group go, low karaoke. Left on front, left on back. You guys can go, yeah? What a lot of people don't understand, this relates right to the crossover step, doesn't it? This relates to the crossover step. All right, this time we're going to go high knee karaoke. So we're really going to exaggerate high knee karaoke. Okay? Just like we're getting that leg up over a hurdle. First group go. High knee karaoke. Get that leg up and over. Hip mobility. How many of you guys have athletes with bad hips? They just have bad hips. They can't move. You guys have athletes with bad hips? Bad hip mobility, they can't move, they're really restricted in their range of motion, mobility in their hip. Okay, now we're going to go over the hurdle, under the hurdle. So now I get a squat in as well, right? And keep working my hip mobility. I'm going to go over the hurdle. I'm going to go under the hurdle, okay? And I'm going to squat, keep my chest up, and get under the hurdle. You can actually use hurdles. You've probably seen hurdles used, but I just use an exaggeration of it here because the hurdle height can depend on mobility of the athlete. First group, go. Over the hurdle, don't cross your feet. Put them together, under the hurdle. Over the hurdle, under the hurdle. There and back. So obviously, as you can tell, I'm working a lot of hip mobility. How they look? No comments?
Some have a longer reach.
Some of them are out here as well, right? There you go. Keep that chest up. Just don't duck your head underneath that hurdle. Keep that chest up. Keep that chest up. Keep that core engaged all the way through. How many of you guys are already doing something like this? How many of you guys have a strength and conditioning coach that works with your program? Obviously at the high school level, right? So youth coaches, this falls on you guys, right? So again, high school coaches complain to me all the time. When freshmen walk in the door, they can't do a body weight squat. They can't move. They have tight hips, right? They can't rotate. I can do what I can, coach. They're 14 years old, I can do what I can, but whatever happened between 6 and 13 happened or didn't happen. So now we're in remedial athleticism, right? That's what this class is. It's a remedial athleticism when they're a freshman in high school. Don't take that seriously, okay, guys? So here's another thing I like to do. I'll do this real quick, Matt, okay? Is just mix in some transitions. So I like to go, I'll demonstrate it. You guys are good, okay? So I like to do some transitions with them where we're going to go forward to back pedal. I'm going to go forward to back pedal. And I'm going to go shuffle to forward. And I'm going to go back pedal to shuffle. And sometimes I'll go all four. I'm going to go forward to shuffle, to back pedal, to shuffle. I did everything in a line, didn't I? Who says I have to do everything in a line? I'll do this curvilinear. I'll do that whole thing curvilinear. Sometimes I'll mix in the transitions with the movements. Knee pull to chest, forward, knee pull to chest, lateral, knee pull to chest, backwards, being able to orientate their body in space and time. Athleticism.
Starting at home plate and going around the base, especially younger levels, they don't know where first. They don't
Yeah.
know to go that way. So you can kind of create that same thing to first and then get them running around the bases or doing something. But
Yeah.
another creative way to tie in baseball, kind of condense some things, and
Yeah.
you don't have to then go over everything.
Yep, awesome point, Matt. So if you didn't hear Matt, he said at younger ages, doing it around the base paths. So they get to understand where's first, where's second, where's third, how do I go from this base to the other, adding that in. So on that note with youth, the other thing, I'm German heritage. Eisenmann is Iron Man. I like things in a line and doing things very systematic. Make it chaotic. We're just gonna go wherever. On my whistle, listen to what I have to say. Forward. And they're just running wherever. Skip. High knee. Butt kicks. Shuffle. And they can go wherever they want to. Just make it chaotic. Younger kids, older kids. Younger kids, obstacle courses. Set up an obstacle course, right? Where they have to traverse different things. And from cone 1 to cone 2, you're gonna shuffle. And we're gonna go over and under the hurdles. And then from here, we're going to backpedal and jump over this barrier or whatever. Make it fun. You gotta put an elementary school PE hat on once in a while. Because again, you really are. If you're a youth coach, you're becoming a physical education teacher for us because these kids aren't getting it in their schools. And again, you heard these guys say it, athleticism. You heard my story, and you probably know these stories about these freshmen in high school who come in and they don't have these fundamental movement skills. So it becomes remedial. You have these hitters who lack mobility. You have these hitters who lack being able to do fundamental athletic position and having good strength and power here. I didn't cover doing a body weight squat and jumping, but let's take the last 10 minutes of practice. Hey, 3 times 10 body weight squat, 3 times 10 walking lunge, 2 times 6 vertical jump, 2 times 5 long jump, 3 jump, 5 tuck jumps, push-ups, pull-ups, let's call it a day. Guess what I've done? I've checked every box on my athleticism now, haven't I? But you have to make that a priority other than, right? Hey, we're gonna learn this cutoff system. Hey, we're gonna learn this bunt defense. So in football, they love X's and O's. My last story, promise, okay? In football, they love X's and O's. True story. I'm in Texas, 6-year-olds, full pads, 100-yard field. Coach is up on the whiteboard. This little kid has his hand up. One of the kids says, Coach, Jimmy has a question. Jimmy, what's your question? Coach, what are the X's and what are the O's? Right? So think about when you're doing bunt defenses and cutoff systems and trying to teach all this complex tactical stuff about the game at young ages. We need these kids to move and be good athletes, so when they move up the chain, then we can start introducing those things in a more complex and systematic manner. That's long-term athletic development. Good job, guys. Thanks a lot. Give these guys a hand. Thanks. I'll be around the rest of the morning. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Again, if you go to the Volt Athletics blog, that information is going to be on there in quite a bit of detail as well.